That's funny, it's not coming up with the option. Okay, it is. Good. I think we should be all good. I think I'm going to do one last minute change to the framing and just do a teeny weeny bit down. While we're live, just before while we're late, it's because I'm making micro adjustments to the stream, including putting up memes in the background.
So you full screen the chat?
For us, yeah. I tried putting it on the screen, but it just wasn't even legible, I think. Well, yeah, I know you don't like looking at yourself, but
yeah.
Okay. So we won't be able to see ourselves. We just every time I film myself, either streaming or doing a video, I've always been able to watch myself, and I kind of got used to being able to check on myself. Yeah, it's more just like if I've got my hair going the wrong way, or if I've got something in my teeth, something like that.
Who cares? Is that you? It's not like I mean, there's a 4K camera, but I don't think it's a 4K stream.
It's definitely not. So today you're joining me because we're going to talk about. I'm just going to check the audio is working. We're going to talk about parenthood. I think that when we're talking about the choice to be childless or to have children, I think people who are parents, or maybe people who are most recently parents, have the knowledge of being both childless and of being parents.
Well, it's a coincidence that you happen to be the most insightful category there could be.
Yes, well, it's not a coincidence because I choose the topic. It's not like somebody has told me that I must talk about this, and I'm pretending to have authority about it. I'm picking this topic because I think it's a good time to talk about it. I made a video 2 years ago where I announced my pregnancy, and it was called "Why Would Anyone Want to Have Children?"
Yeah. And
I think we're going to tread over some of the same ground, but now we have the.
I don't remember what was your hot take in the video.
Well, I'll get into that.
I mean, I vaguely remember, but
my point was that the people who are on, the people such as r/child free,
yeah,
and the cool wine aunts of this world, the would-be cool wine aunts,
aspiring
cool wine aunts, they have a good point, and I think there are a lot of things that one can enjoy about a childless life. And I can understand why people would want to, even people who want to have children, might want to extend that childless life for as long as possible and leave it to the last minute to start getting your act together. So while we're talking about having children, I also want to talk about marriage. I think getting married is a bit like a minor form of having children, in the sense that you are taking on another person who is now your responsibility, but that person's usually a lot easier to take care of than a child.
Yeah, it's one of the I mean, marriage at least used to be, but irreversible forward steps. It's a bit like in video games when you have to jump down that bit and you can't get back up. It's sort of like you want to check all the areas to make sure you didn't miss any coins.
That's a wonderful analogy. And actually, I was thinking, I've been playing Demon's Souls recently, and this is a good opportunity for me to push my my Twitch stream. I don't announce my streams on
LTTstore.com.
I don't announce my streams that well. I just randomly, whenever I get the chance to play Demon's Souls, I've been trying to stream it to Twitch. I'm not saving those videos anywhere, but if you're on Twitch and you like watching Twitch streamers, you can subscribe to me to twitch.tv/potheperson, all one word, and you'll be. I expect you'll be notified when I go live. So that's the last thing I'm going to say about it. You can watch me play Demon's Souls. It was good fun last time. We had a small.
Did you kill that boss?
I killed the boss. Yeah.
After that.
I didn't check.
Okay.
I just wanted to go and cash in those souls. Anyway, I said that was the last time I was going to talk about it. But the thing about Dark Souls and Demon's Souls is that it's a difficult game. They are difficult games by design, and they're not. It's not that it's. It's not that the difficulty makes the game worse. Like, oh, this is a great game, but it's difficult. The experience of struggling with the game is what makes it fun.
Yeah.
And quite famously, the creator, I think it was when they were making Demon's Souls, when the playtesters said this game is too hard, he made it harder. Or he told his like team to make it harder.
Well, I think, yeah. I mean, I've talked to you about this before, but this is.
I don't want to hear about how Dark Souls isn't a hard game. I'm making a point about parenting, so unless it's going to contribute to that.
No, but I do have to correct you. Dark Souls is, however hard people think it is, it's not as hard as that. It's Dark Souls is one of its. Yeah, I won't say the one thing that's good about it, but one of the things that is cool about it or interesting about it is the apparent difficulty of the game is much higher than its actual difficulty.
Apparent to who?
Your experience of playing it makes you feel like the game is harder than it is.
Well, how is that a difficulty is like being in pain. Like if you think you're in pain, then you're in pain. If you think it's difficult, then it is difficult.
No, because it's got, like I said, most.
Can we talk about parenting?
No, because I'm going to talk about Dark Souls now. Because it hits you with stuff the first time that completely gazumps you, and you remember that and go, oh, the first thing you play in Dark Souls is you got that thing and the boulder comes down and hits you, and you go, what the fuck?
Yeah, the boulder just hit me.
That just seems like completely unfair. You know, it just screwed you over. And then, but the thing is, like, you know about it. You've learned about it. So, like, the next time you go through it.
Well, there is no boulders. That's a bad example.
Well, whatever.
The boulder only hits you once.
There's lots of bits in Dark Souls like that where it will gazump you. You don't see it coming, and it fucks you over. And then you go, oh. You realise it, but you remember that first gazumping all the time. And you're always thinking about, Dark Souls will fuck me over all the time. But it usually fucks you over the first time and then you just know about it. So like, there's a lot of playing Dark Souls which is like remembering all those times you got screwed over. But the thing that makes it cool is that, you master it, or it gives you a fake feeling. I mean, I wouldn't say like there's mastery in it, but it definitely does really push quickly the feeling that you've mastered this hard game.
Yeah.
Like you go, oh, I know that guy's gonna do that thing. And like,
yeah, exactly. That's what people like about playing the game, is that you feel like you've mastered a very difficult skill.
Yeah. I mean, there is that element to it.
You dropped into this environment where there's a lot of exploration and there's a very complicated menu. But once you've mastered your items, you've mastered the environment, you know all the tricks of the enemies, you know all their movesets, and you've got your own sword animations completely down, so you know exactly how long each attack is going to do, and you feel like the master of this game. No,
I mean, other games do have mastery in them, but this game has mastery, plus it does use like a trick to make you feel like you're mastering it.
Okay, can we talk about that another time?
Okay.
My point is that I think that people who, the childless people who are either, I'm mostly talking about the people who have decided to never have children because it's too much, it's too onerous, it's too much of a restriction on their freedom, it's too difficult, in other words, and
they're only imagining because they can't experience it.
Well, yeah, but it is difficult. But the point is that they imagine that the difficulty is the worst thing about it. But I think there is an element of that Dark Souls mastery where you are presented with something difficult. There is a bit of a curve to it where one day you don't have a child at all, and then the next you've got one all the time.
Yeah.
24 hours a day you've got to look after a baby now.
Yeah.
When previously you were just pregnant, or the husband of someone who was pregnant.
Yeah, it is.
But I think as much as you can personally, just talking about what you personally gain as a parent, that feeling of mastery and of dealing with something difficult and rising to the occasion on the occasions where you do, and sometimes you fail as well. That's not the worst thing about it. That's one of the best things about it, from a completely selfish point of view. I think what a lot of these people miss, which is something I didn't talk about in that video, about just all of the wonderful freedoms you have as a childless person, and usually as a single person as well. When it's just you, and maybe you've got a job and you have to pay rent, and maybe you've got a mortgage, but you're basically the master of your own fate. You can do whatever you want. You can take a holiday to wherever you want. If your job tells you to go and stay in Malaysia for 2 months because to set up their factory there, or whatever your job is, that's just a very personal example. You're not beholden to anyone. You might have to call your mom once a week, but you don't have any responsibilities.
Also, I mean, there's a kind of escalation. I mean, once you get married, then that's very similar to. I mean, that's the whole idea behind marriage is that.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Like marriage,
it's a setup for having children, so that you become entrenched in a particular place.
Yeah.
Per people think.
You set up in somewhere and you have a home.
Yeah, you lose. Or potentially you can lose freedoms that you've had before.
Yeah.
You exchange those freedoms and for a different set of freedoms, maybe.
Yeah, and I think that's people will say the same thing about having a dog. Having a cat, you can basically just live with your cat, and the cat does its own thing, and you just put food in its tray.
Yeah.
Having a dog's a bit different because there is more responsibility there, and it's a bit harder to get someone to come and take care of your dog if you want to go away. But to the extent that what I'm talking about, there is this sort of intermediary step of getting a dog. I just wanted to play lip service to that because that is something that many childless people talk about. They say that they reference their pets with a astounding frequency, where someone who's childless will often reference the fact that they have a pet, or that now they have a lot of time for their pets. They love their pets are cute. There's a sort of spiteful way that childless people will often brag about how their fur babies are cuter than babies, or their dogs or cats are much cuter than a baby could be.
Yeah, but there's a kind of like MGTOW element to childlessness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like MGTOW is to
marriage.
To men. Well, I don't know what how would you directly say, like the childless couples are like men that don't want to get married.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's cope mixed with some rationalizations.
Yeah.
With a sort of saying like, oh, with marriage you're losing out on all these things.
Mm.
And the childless couples are going, oh, you're missing out on all these things.
And the thing is that they're right. I think they're both right in a way. It's like if you these MGTOW guys who complain about they don't want to live with a woman, they don't want to deal with all of the woman's nagging and all personality faults and to have to be legally obliged into that relationship.
Yeah.
And that all of that is true. And the same thing. I mean, having children is even more so. You're legally obligated to your offspring. I think men are more than women. Is that right? They've taken that out of the law now. But yeah, I mean,
you can put them up for adoption.
Yeah, but I don't know if.
I don't know if you can just put someone up for adoption if you just want to get rid of. Like,
yeah.
If you're a rich person and you have a kid and you just want to get rid of that kid, can you put them up for adoption?
I think you need to have you need to abuse them.
I guess people that are rich can effectively put someone up for adoption.
How so?
Well, they have a nanny. They can just.
Oh yeah.
There are people that test them to boarding school. Like you can, if you're rich, you can avoid interacting with your kid.
It's true. Just pay someone else to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah, I think the problem is if you're not rich, and I don't know how I got onto that, but the thing about I think having children it's much more intense than getting married for the first few years. That's what we've been experiencing is there's an intense care that they need. Yeah. Your spouse is pretty much independent from you, aside from the fact that you live together and you need to manage each other's habits a little bit. That goes on forever though. For marriage, the deal is that you're going to be with this person for decades.
Well, I guess marriage is almost like the inverse, where you're trying to figure out how to become more dependent on that person.
Yeah.
I mean, not like it. I mean, I'm thinking of it as an efficiency thing. It makes sense that you specialize to some degree.
Yeah.
And in marriage, it's kind of like maybe doing something for the other person, or them doing something for you, as opposed to you all doing everything. as you were when you were single.
Yeah, I think these are all points that it would be nice to bring up in a marriage stream, which I'd like to do at a later date, maybe around our anniversary.
I think it's I mean, in some ways it is hard to unentangle a marriage from a children thing. I mean, that is the core source of marriage. Yeah, the reason why marriage exists is because child raising exists.
Yeah, you need two people. Yeah, you need two people to do it.
If we magically extra people appeared, then you wouldn't have marriage.
Mm.
You would just have you probably will couple up and stuff like that, but I don't think you'd have any kind of societal institution of binding people together in a sort of legally affirming way that what marriage or at least used to be.
Yeah, to finish my point though, the marriage, it lasts for decades, and you're never going to be out of it.
Yeah.
With children though, it is more intense, but the attachment weakens over time until they're
12
you hope. Yeah, well, exactly. You until they're old enough to be independent, whatever that age is, and some children don't reach that until 30 or 40 or never do. But in the vast majority of cases, you are free of those children by the time they're 20, you'd hope. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, traditionally it was, traditionally those kids would be they'd be from 5, 3 onwards, they would be helping to do some kind of tasks around the house. Yeah, that's the traditional, and then they'd go off and they'd be they'd help the mum raise the other kids if they were girls, and then get married off, or they'd help the dad around the house doing whatever the family business was, farming or whatever, until they got married and moved out.
Yeah, I think it is interesting how education has now become a replacement for childcare almost, where you I think the primary function of education is just to get children out of the house so that both parents can go to work. That's perhaps for a different time. I guess what I wanted to talk to you about is I made a list of all the things that you can do when you're childless that you can't really do when you're settled down, either married or with children. I don't have the list with me, but I think I remember it.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's anything you absolutely can't do. I think that it becomes a degree of everything. All those things become harder. Some of them become a lot harder.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And basically, what it takes is for you to have another full-time carer who can take over from you for a while. If that's your spouse, then your spouse very well might feel very put upon for you to just leave them for a day or a night or for a week. So the list, the reason I made the list is that I never thought about it this hard when we got married, or when we decided to have children. But thinking, I kind of had an intuitive grasp of the list, where it's kind of like a bucket list, where if you get a good dose of all these things before you're married, you've had a very good adolescence and adulthood, and you should count yourself lucky because most people don't get all these things.
Yeah.
And I think asking for too much of that is just a bit greedy. But to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I think the things were travel. I think I might have called it parties or /friends. Yeah. Any sort of nighttime activity where
sausage fests.
What?
There's all euphemisms for sex.
Yeah, come on. I mean, the sausage fest, that's not what sausage fest means anyway.
Well, so you know what I mean. It's well-travelled.
Well, that's not what I mean.
I know you don't.
I'm saying, your equivalent would be, hanging out with the boys and playing video games all night. Having a little LAN party. Don't do that.
LAN jam.
Get a little hand jam, yeah. You don't have LAN jams after you have kids. And, you never did much travelling. It's such a meme right now. It's like a woman who travels is almost just by definition a cool wine aunt in the making. But I actually did get a lot out of my traveling time. I didn't like take a year off, do a gap year or anything. It was all just sort of spaced out over a series of short-ish holidays. But yeah, I went to Japan. I've been to Hong Kong, China. I've been to India. Just a lot of little trips around Europe for long weekends. Just a lot of ways that I've been able to enjoy that independence, and that independence was completely intensified. And there is a reason that I put Snufkin in the thumbnail, because when I went to China for 2 weeks, I was completely independent because we were together, but you were here in England.
Yeah.
And I was staying in China. I was staying in a youth hostel. This is the first holiday I didn't have any friends, and I was just doing my own thing. And sometimes I wouldn't do anything, and I'd just stay in the hostel and watch the DVDs that they got there with the awful English subtitles. And I feel like it was important to experience that that absolute extreme end of freedom, where you can just go anywhere, do whatever you want with your time. I didn't have a job out there. I was just, my time was completely my own, and I could just behave how I wanted, dress how I wanted. It didn't matter, and it was almost worth experiencing that, just because, it got pretty empty after 2 weeks. The interpersonal relationships. Not just the fleeting people that you're talking to at a bar, but the people who you actually care about, who care about you, define you in a way. And it's very interesting to take yourself out of your ordinary context, away from all the people who know you, and just put yourself in a completely new place around people who've never met you before. They don't have any idea what you're like.
Yeah. And
just to find out who you are when you remove all of that. And for me, what I found out is that I'm just the same person I always was. And when I would talk to people, they would form the same opinions about me as everyone I knew back home had.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah, exactly. That's what traveling is like. But I think it's worth traveling just to find that out to some extent. I think that I was going to talk about traveling in its own video, because I think for women, especially compared to men, women define themselves by how other people are reacting to them, how other people treat them, how other people are judging them. They're defined, women are more social than men, so we define ourselves socially. So to take yourself away from everyone you know and out of all the places that you know is, you can find yourself out there. But it might just be my personal thing, or maybe this is just what everyone finds, which is just that I'm just the same person. I didn't find anyone new. It was just the same person I've always been.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder how much of the traveling meme is people genuinely enjoying traveling versus people who like being seen to be the kind of person that travels.
You mean getting the photos and putting them on Facebook?
Yeah.
The Tinder profile?
Yeah.
Well, I think there is a natural human reaction to novelty. You're quite low on the sort of openness to experience trait, I think. But for most people, just seeing something novel is, it's enjoyable. It's something they enjoy. I mean,
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm not open to it, but it's I don't get the kick that maybe people get from it to go through. For me, like traveling, I'm thinking about traveling.
You're thinking about the logistics and
I'm thinking
all the difficulties.
I have to get there, and like it just feels like a lot of work to see something that's pretty.
Something you could see on Reddit.
I mean, I used to try it like every year. I used to go on holiday when I was a kid, and it would I'd look at I would just look at the sides of the roads or whatever, and I would think like that could be at home. It's like like when you see pictures of Mars or the moon or whatever, you think like, is that what alien planets look like? It just looks like
some rocks.
It's just some rocks and stuff like that. And it's like when I was abroad, I was yeah, it wasn't like always that, but yeah, sometimes I look around and just go like, it's kind of just this is just a road, and it's this could be this looks a bit like that place over by whatever everywhere you go it's kind of it's like 90% the same, and then occasionally there's a big building that's different, or like a cool little thing, or there's the shops are really you go to the shop, it's like being in a shop at home. It's like it's got a little bit
I feel completely the opposite. Where I mean, maybe it's just going to Asia where everything is just different. But what I love about going to really foreign countries, not like France, but in Japan, it's like you go to like a convenience store and just looking at all the random stuff they've got there is completely different to what they've got here. And the way it's organised is different. You know, like there's Paul, what's he called? Lean. Paul Akers, like the way he's just amazed about everything he sees in Japan because it's just very well organised.
Yeah, I mean, things are different, like but it was like it wasn't like I said about Mars and stuff like that. Like it is different, but it's not. Like alien landscapes in sci-fi.
Sure.
A
matte painting at the back of Star Trek.
No, I'm talking about like a proper like Strange New World that like in remember that planet in episode 3 where it's all like giant mushrooms.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like one of the Jedi get killed there. Like there's giant mushrooms and there's like the AT-ATs are walking past and stuff like that.
You like playing Dark Souls?
It's like it looks like what the fuck? That's like a completely alien. Nothing. It looks like a real alien planet, and then like you look at Mars, it looks like some rocks.
Okay.
I'm saying like, the way people talk about traveling, it's like you get like okay, the shops are slightly different. There's definitely everything's different, but it's not really that different.
Yeah, okay.
It's
all
not
right.
like
I can't convince.
I got on a plane and you spend 20 hours on a flight, and then you're too tired, and you have to get on the thing, and then you wake up and you've got to figure out how to get somewhere strange in a new place, and it's like you're just seeing something. It's like it's a weird shop.
Yeah, look, I can't convince you that it's fun if you don't find it fun, but for me and for a lot of people, it is. And even just that like which bus am I supposed to get on right now? There is a certain excitement about that, although it's not that fun. It's like playing Dark Souls, where you get it right and then you go, oh great, or you get it wrong and then you go somewhere like kind of interesting, and it becomes like a story. Not that I'm not the kind of person who tells stories like that. Sometimes I do. Anyway, the whole thing about traveling is that, despite what you say, a lot of young people do romanticize it, and I think they're right to romanticize it.
Oh yeah.
But I think there's a diminishing returns effect where it doesn't matter really where you go, but if you've done a bit of traveling by the time you're 25, but by the time you are ready to settle down, I don't think there's any need to get greedy with it. And the other things on my list are the same, where not me, but a lot of people my age and older and younger like to stay out really late and dance and drink. And I hate doing that. I like going to the pub and having a chat until like 12. I've never been the kind of person who stays up till 4 in dance clubs because it's too loud and I don't like standing next to people.
Yeah.
But I think I understand the appeal. It is exciting being around other young people. It's almost like the clubbing thing. Kids don't call it clubbing these days, so I feel very old. They just call it going out. Going out.
They don't say clubbing anymore.
No.
Going out is the best.
They just call it out, and if they have to.
Sure, you just don't know what it is.
No, I know it's called going out, and sometimes it's called going out. Oh, we're going out. It's like we're not. I don't like him. I like him. Oh, we're going out. If you need to clarify, just so you make sure they're not going just out somewhere.
Yeah. Going to McDonald's.
Anyway, sometimes they're going out, and I think there is a filtering mechanism there where it's so obnoxiously loud and crowded and unpleasant that they're filtering out old people and people like me who aren't any fun. So what you're left with is just a bunch of people who are there to like have fun. It's not fun for me, but they're having fun because they wouldn't be there if they weren't. And that's something that I don't think you can. If I did love to do that, and you and I were married, I think you'd probably have a problem with me doing that. It's one of those things that I think married people probably shouldn't be doing, because there is almost an intrinsically sexual element to it, where you're like hooking up with random people. Where if you're out with the girls and you're dancing with the girls because it's a hen night or something, that's one thing. But most of the time, you're dancing with strangers, and that's, although like traveling, you don't have to take like 2 weeks off work to go out or out. You have to stay up late. I hope you don't have to get up early the next morning, because there's no way that's happening. And I think it's just not for the married people. I think, especially, and we're talking about being childless, and if you have a kid, I think that's definitely out of the picture unless you get a babysitter for that night and the next day, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if you do have grandparents available, then it's pretty, I would say, easy, but it's definitely doable. Yeah, maybe not every single week, but it's not something that you'd have to completely cut out. But then I guess,
I think I'd be questioning why you want to be doing it more than saying that it's impossible. I think there's just a natural drop-off of the desire to do that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I never had the desire to do that, so I don't know when the drop-off thing happens, or what it's like. But I always thought it was lame from like 7 onwards.
I think the other thing I wanted to mention is that when sort of the next item on my list is friends more broadly. And I was thinking about putting this with the nightlife thing, but I think having friends is different, because your friends can just drop by, or you can just go to their house, or you can go out with them to a coffee shop, and you can just arrange to meet them at certain times. But when you have a kid, you either need to get a babysitter, or if you're childless, friends will probably have a very limited patience for your child. And there's also we had to organise everything around their naps and their meals, because...
I mean, I think that's also similar to what happens when you get married, or in a relationship. It becomes harder to hang out with single friends.
Yeah.
Or it becomes harder for single friends to hang out with one of the couple.
Yeah, you can't. You're a full package. You're both coming along.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but then it becomes like a bigger deal to not. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, the default is both of them. So to just hang out with one of them is like an active...
It's an exclusion.
Exclusion of one of them. So it's sort of... I mean, it's hard enough keeping friends as it is, but like that's... Like that, I think that's why people tend to... lose friends, or...
Yeah, there's also just a...
drift out of...
I don't know how it is for a lot of people, but when we have a very... shall we say, an intellectually stimulating friendship, where we're married, we're in love, we have a child together, but we also are good conversation for each other. Yeah. Just like we're doing now. So I don't need to be going out looking for other people to talk to. It's all at home. I don't need to be... there's not much that I'm looking for, because it's all here, and there's something nice about that. But then there's also I don't feel lonely anymore. So whereas when I was staying with my parents, I'd be looking for any opportunity to get out of the house, and just to meet some other people who I could talk to, or just hang out with, go for a walk with, something like that. Now it's like I don't have the hunger for other people's company, because it's always...
Yeah, I think one of much of that sort of that travelling, going out instinct is because they don't have a fulfilling relationship. That's sort of like the instinct to do that is in order to interact with enough people so you can settle down because you found somebody.
Yeah. I think you're right, but then there is also... I think you can get, depending on your personality, I think you can get stuck a little bit if you completely cease looking for any new experiences, just because your desire has died a bit. Then I think that can wear on you after a while, maybe. Anyway, that's just friends. That was my next item on the list. So you've got travel, nightlife, and friends. Maybe there's just a space there for what would you call it? Substance abuse. Using alcohol. I mean, that's kind of nightlife, isn't it? But using any.
I mean, it doesn't have to be, yeah, but it's
using anything intensively is hard. So we have 2 or 3 hours after our daughter goes to bed where you can play a video game, and you often fall asleep because it's just so exhausting. The rest of the day is so exhausting. You don't even have even when you've got free time, you just fall asleep during that free time. That's what it was like for me when I was on maternity leave for the first 6 months. I would get she'd nap all the time. But I would be so tired when she had a nap that I had to take a nap as well. So I would just about get all the chores done for the day. And then I'd be thinking about, maybe I'll try learning some Python.
Yeah.
Try learning some C++. And I was just too tired. Just need to go to sleep. So I was getting by, but only just. And these days I feel like I'm not even getting by some days. Something they don't tell you about having kids. I always thought that the newborn stage would be the hardest. You hear about they never sleep.
I think we all were fairly lucky.
We were very lucky. She slept not only at night, but she slept all the time during the day. So I was managing quite well. But now she's not only awake. She's 18 months now. Not only is she awake the vast majority of the day, she needs entertaining for that time, or some kind of occupation. Yeah, well, that's entertaining, isn't it? It doesn't need to be active entertainment, but often it does. And when we were in lockdown,
I think that was the hardest stage, was when she was active but wouldn't be interested in Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
You couldn't just. She wouldn't. I don't think you really grasped what Peppa Pig was.
She couldn't.
Or any TV, so she wouldn't be locked on it. But she was moving around and picking stuff up. That was like a 3-4 month period of mobility mixed with inability to focus on an easy distraction.
Coming back to my point, when I say substance abuse, that can be literal in the sense of going to excesses in alcohol or whatever your poison of choice is, but it's also things like video games or any intense hobby, which could take blocks of hours to do at a time. Something that you would binge on. You and I, before we were even married, we would play Terraria for 6 hours a day at its peak.
Yeah.
You just can't indulge a hobby or any activity like that.
Yeah. Every hobby is like playing board games or whatever. You can't. Everything has got to be able to be done in the time when she's not there or napping, and also being able to put completely out of her reach at the point where she's active.
Yeah. You can't have a circular saw lying around.
Yeah. Well, it's not plugged in.
Yeah. I guess that brings me. That's my list. So to reiterate, I think when you've had a good.
With money is the main one as well. That's what they always.
Having
about.
Money, yeah.
I mean, that seems like that seems. I mean, it's the one they talk about the most.
How expensive kids are.
Yeah.
The thing is, when you have a kid, you don't have time to spend your money on anything anyway. So you're not spending it on holidays or going out. I mean, the amount that some people spend on alcohol every week, just that saving will offset the baby.
Well, I mean, it's a side issue, but I think a lot of it is down to that babies can be quite expensive if you actually buy all the shit that people try and tell you that you need to have.
If you need to move into a bigger home, I don't think we never.
That's a meme as well.
We're still in a 1-bedroom, which it has its downsides, but it's not necessary. You don't need a second bedroom.
No.
At this, for the first few years.
Yeah, there's a whole There's some people wait until they can afford to have a 2-bedroom house before they think.
Yeah,
about
exactly.
Kids.
Or they just wait until they have a mortgage at all. I mean, these days people don't do that till quite late.
Yeah, I mean, They say it's very expensive. It costs like 50. What is it? There's it's $250,000 to bring a kid from. I can't remember what it is, but it's some ridiculously high hundreds of thousands thing that they talk about on child free or whatever. It's basically it costs you £1 million from birth till they leave to bring up their kid, and you think what you could spend it on. I mean, I've heard that maybe like it gets more expensive when they start
when they go to school,
or like in teenagers. But I mean,
when you got to buy them books. I mean, if you go on holiday and if you go out to restaurants, that's just an extra person
yeah,
you got to pay for. I mean, just an extra airline ticket will be, quite. I mean, that's something substantial.
You don't need like.
You don't need to do those things.
Like you said, I think the it's expensive thing is the very weakest argument.
Yeah, I think
unless you are also like the kind of person that needs to buy every optional thing, then it does get very expensive.
And then also I just want to point out that money isn't it's not useful in itself. It's you buy things with it, and I'd be asking those people what they're buying that's so great compared. If they're saying they're donating it to charity, that's very noble. But I don't think many people do that. I just wonder, like, what are they spending their money on? Are so great.
I mean, I think a lot of I don't know what percentage you say, but it's something like 50% of people are just pretty bad with money, and like they say, they live paycheck to paycheck.
True.
Yeah, so I think for those people,
they literally might not be able to afford an extra £100 a month.
I think they'd probably spend it on shit.
Yeah.
And if they had a kid, they'd probably just have to give up some of the shit. Like they've probably got like 16 different subscriptions for all sorts of things. They've got
Have they ever made a TV show where they just go into people's finances and tell them to stop buying stuff? I'd love to see a show like that.
I don't know. There's ones that the person's in debt. £30,000 and they do that. I've seen that. Go like, this is your
I would like to see you host that TV show.
I would like to see that too.
What is that? You're spending £40 on avocados.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good don't pay, take it away.
Yeah.
Channel 5
you see
TV show there.
You can see like a Peter Hitchens figure sort of hosting it. Someone who has absolutely no sympathy. Just
yeah, I mean,
go full savage mode, looking at everything they spent money on.
Yeah, so I think that's part of it. Is that there's people out there that are just terrible at money.
Yeah, and so there's nappies. When they're first born, you have to buy the nappies.
Yeah, I think nappies and milk are
the
most reoccurring large chunk of.
But many people don't even give their babies formula, so you don't have to pay for the bottle or the powder or anything. If you're going exclusively breast milk, which many people do, up to the first year.
Do many people do that exclusively?
Yes. There's been a lot. I told you that there's a lot of fear mongering specifically against formula. I know it's different because when we were in the hospital, they were pretty eager to give the baby formula just because she was she wasn't in a good way and she needed the extra calories basically, and I couldn't give her enough. So they were not shaming at all. But the midwives who were taking care of me during the pregnancy, they were always giving me reasons to not use any formula. But they're talking about like obesity and I can't even remember what it was now. Infections.
Yeah.
They really don't want you to give your kid any formula.
It just seems correct. Like when I think about how much milk we gave her, I mean, I guess early on it wasn't that much, but like when they're a year old, to be a woman to be producing that much milk. Yeah. That's like a pint a day.
Yeah, well, she's eating as well, but even so. Anyway, the milk is the nappies are the first expense you have to go through, and that is I think it was like I want to say £5 a week. The more you get through, obviously, they get more expensive, and the bigger they get. The package remains the same price, but you don't get as many in the pack. That's how they get you.
Right.
But you spend more on nappies as they get older, until the potty training, I guess. And that's probably the biggest expense. Look, we didn't spend much on clothes or on accessories because people were so eager to buy us presents. We got everything we needed by our parents, basically, and just random people who wanted to buy us gifts.
Yeah.
We never had like a baby shower. We both hate parties. So we didn't have a baby shower, but people ended up buying us gifts anyway, that covered basically everything. I didn't buy her any clothes for the first year. So that was fine, and we wash the clothes perhaps more regularly. No, we did the same number of washes. We just I do have to
I
do it.
think we've had an occasional like extra wash.
We have to do an extra wash sometimes. So you do.
Well, I think that's mainly down to us forgetting to do the wash.
Sometimes you don't include the baby clothes.
I think if we 100% washed all the stuff that needed to be washed on the wash day, then.
I think when people say kids are expensive, they're mostly talking about childcare. So if you're working, you have to give up like 10 or 20% of your earnings will probably go to.
That's got to be the biggest one, isn't it? If you haven't got, unlike us, relatives that can take over childcare, then you're immediately.
We've got someone in the chat saying that breastfeeding is better. That is true. You get antibodies through breastfeeding that they boost the immune system.
But that's only for newborns, though, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm not here to say that one is better than the other. I just think that the formula scaremongering is significant.
Yeah, I think the antibody thing is just. I don't think there's any benefit after the first week or so, or a few weeks.
I mean, it's just more convenient. The baby wakes up in the middle of the night. It's easier to give her a boob than it is to go downstairs, sterilize a bottle, make hot milk that then needs to be cooled down so that it's able to, they've got a very sensitive mouth, babies.
Pre-made bottles.
You can buy a pre-made bottle, but that's basically what you're doing.
Well, when they haven't got anything approaching a regular cycle, then you want to have the milk.
The milk quantities it's very self-regulating, kind of. I mean, I was overproducing milk. I don't know if this is like an interesting story, but I would wake up every morning and my the shirt was
formula is proven to result in your kid having a slightly less IQ. No, that's correlation.
Yeah.
I'm afraid it's because it's skewed. Like obviously, all the kids that are in care and get taken away from their parents all get fed formula.
Yeah, and also in the countries where they've given formula to very poor people, because it's made with dirty water, it often gives them infections, which is another one of those places where the myth has just cropped up, and it's difficult to then dispel that notion once it's been proven. I'm not saying that formula is better. It's in the modern days, it's better to there is an advantage to sharing the childcare between the father and the mother, so that it's not just the mother constantly being tied to the child. You can make a bottle and the dad can feed it, and there's a bonding that results from that as well. Although you can bottle up breast milk as well. Remember when I used to have a pump and you used to call me a cow?
Yeah, I still call you a cow though.
That's true, but it was more apt back then when we had the breast pump. Psh, psh, psh. Ooh.
Yeah, the Mad Max. Remember that?
Yeah. I think kids can be expensive, but the only reason that you would be paying for childcare is if you're both working, then you need a nursery or a nanny. So the fact that you're both working means you're probably quite wealthy anyway. I don't want to say like you have to be, because if you're both working class jobs.
Yeah, I think this is a modern society problem where we've created a problem that has created problems.
Yeah.
The kind of like, women should go to work thing has meant that women always go to work, and so they have to go to work in order to earn money now to have childcare, to look after their kid. It's kind of and then you've got the other problem of like having less kids. Long term it means that there's like the family is less large, which means that you've got less ability to sort of share the childcare.
Well, if you think like if you've got a sibling who has kids of the same age, then you can be dividing up that care a little bit, and the kids play together, and they're almost easier to take care of when there's more of them, which is what makes nurseries possible, because they do regulate each other, and they entertain each other when you put them with other children.
I mean, little kids are fascinated by other kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially slightly older kids than themselves.
So you put some kids together and you give them some toys, and you've basically entertained them for a few hours with some watchful care.
Yeah, we need to
give them a snack.
You can have a room of like 6 or 7 kids with one adult.
Yeah.
And
And that adult could be someone running a nursery, but it could also just be your sister, or your neighbour. We live much more atomized lives these days, and that's what the book Tribe was about, that I often talk about on this channel, where now if you're raising a kid, you are raising it. It's not a community process. You know, your neighbour is not going to be watching your kid. A lot of people don't have their parents living nearby who can then watch the grandchildren. We move out of our parents' homes and often move more than 20 miles away.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of, and the media often portray people that don't move away as like losers.
Yeah.
Like, you see it often in films of, like the successful person goes back to their hometown and
you're cool if you move to the city.
Or it's like if the film is about a loser, they're still in their hometown, and like at the end they leave their hometown finally.
Yeah, that's kind of the structure of the. I think that's the Joseph Campbell hero's journey working against us, where you need to have the magical.
Well, I think also these are all written by people that left their hometown.
Yeah, right. Good point.
Starring people that left their hometown, directed by people that left their hometown.
Yeah.
Like this is a skewed sample set of success. Not only people that left their hometown, but left their hometown to great success.
Yeah, good point.
By definition, otherwise you wouldn't be watching the film.
Do you want to talk about what it's actually like being a parent, or what you expected it to be like? Anything like that?
I didn't really have.
Well, I didn't
any
want
specific ideas.
I didn't want to come on here and make people like under the impression that it's awesome. I think the basic takeaway I wanted to make sure people understand is that I think that when you have children, you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for them. The very fact of creating life is a gift you're giving to the next generation and to your own child, because life is the best gift you can get.
Yeah, I think it's for yourself as well. Like, I think all these things, it's kind of, all these irreversible steps as you go through life. Like in the natural world, we don't get a choice. You don't get a choice between becoming a child and going through puberty. That's just you start going through puberty and that's it. Like, you might not want to go through puberty, and a lot of I think most people at some point in their lives when they're a little kid dread the idea of like becoming an adult,
or some aspects of it. At least.
Like it doesn't. Or would like to be a child a bit longer, and then when you're an adult, or you've got puberty at least, you could call it being an adult. You dread the idea of being married, and then when you're married, you dread the idea of, or in a relationship, you dread the idea of having children. They're all like steps that you in the normal way of the world you would have effectively or absolutely been pushed through those steps. In the modern world, we can arrest those things sometimes permanently, so we can actually stop at any point and not progress into fully becoming a human being, due to like apprehension about that thing, which I think is not a good thing.
Well, just to continue from that, when you're thinking about the future, you often think about what you're going to lose, and you don't really fully understand the value of what you're going to gain because you don't have it yet. And it's only the things that you have that you're worried about losing that you fully understand. And there are some things about having kids that took me completely by surprise, where I don't know how common this is for women, but just the act of being pregnant and giving birth, something happened to my mind, my hormonal balance, where I was sleeping better. I don't get like acne anymore. Maybe I just grew up, but I don't get really bad spots anymore. And I've never felt more feminine than I did after getting pregnant. Not just intellectually, because being pregnant is a very female way of being, but also, I got more interested in clothes.
Yeah. So you drop 5 IQ points for every child.
Yeah, is that true? I started to be interested in more girly things, in a way I hadn't been before, and I did wonder whether for women pregnancy is like a second puberty, where whatever weird irregularities that you have get kind of knocked out of you, and that's when you fully become a woman. Is after you've entered like the not just the fertile stage of starting, your menstrual cycle, but now here we go, first pregnancy, probably many to follow in the natural world with before birth control. It's like, right, you've got a man, he's putting babies in you. This is what we're doing for the next 10 years or more.
Yeah, I mean, didn't you say once that the natural women normally before modern times would have like 3 periods?
Well, I don't know how true that is, but when you're breastfeeding, you don't have a period. So you've basically got you've got 9 months of no periods. Baby's born, you've got up to a year.
Well, you can't just get breastfeeding.
You can keep breastfeeding and not have any.
It keeps working for
apparently
all these people that are breastfeeding the 7-year-olds. They
you have to breastfeed a certain amount, and it has to be every night and every day. So it needs, if the gap between the feedings gets too large, that's basically your body's way of saying, I'm ready for another one.
If you're there's TV shows about my 7-year-old still breastfeeds.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe basically. But yeah, you can imagine. I mean, I know that women who don't use birth control, usually religious Christians, they basically don't have periods between their children because they're doing the breastfeeding, and then the milk starts to run out, or they move on to formula or whatever. Period comes back, the menstrual cycle comes back, and they get pregnant almost immediately because they're just not using birth control.
I mean, I guess in a sort of like more primitive time, you'd also be not just breastfeeding your children.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak to the historical accuracy of that, but I know that's possible.
I mean, if you're breastfeeding, if you're caring for other kids, at some point there's going to be kids that are like 1 year or younger. You could imagine it being sort of like
I can imagine it, and people did have wet nurses, but I don't know how normal that was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it was.
But yeah, it's possible. It would keep your milk supply up.
Yeah, on average, it would increase the average number of months without a period. Yeah.
So yeah, it's possible that you'd just like you say, you'd have a normal menstrual cycle up to the point where you're married. I expect even in the very primitive natural world, women don't usually get married at 13 or 14. It's like, the youngest is probably 16.
Yeah.
So there's a few years of just getting into the rhythm, and then I mean maybe all the way up to menopause, or when your husband's just disenchanted with you, whichever happens first.
What were we talking about?
Breastfeeding, I guess. Were we?
No. Well, that was.
About how many kids you have, or anyone remember? Just about parents. I was talking about how pregnancy is a second puberty.
Yeah.
And
about irreversible steps.
Yeah.
Through life.
Yeah. So the thing is, I didn't know that all of these wonderful benefits were going to happen after getting pregnant. These were just like bonuses. I thought that the best thing that would happen to me is that I would have a baby, and that everything else would be awful. But actually, after having the baby, I never looked better. After the initial like flab of the bump, the deflated bump going back in and getting all tight again, I thought that was I thought it was never going to go back to normal, but I look fine now. And then what was it, like 4 months after she was born, we were in London, and I was dressed as Britannia, interviewing people on the streets, and I look great in that costume, and
that's the sort of thing that you can do when you're just.
yeah, that's the type of thing you can do when you're childless. We did that for one night, but that's something I didn't expect. I thought I was gonna be puffy and flabby, and my breasts are full of milk, and I was just like, I thought I was gonna be unattractive basically forever, and that my most attractive days were behind me. That was like, okay, that's like kind of the thing I was on the list. It's like, this is my child-free life. You're never going to be more beautiful than you are on your wedding day, and then after that it's all just downhill. You're married, you're letting yourself go, you've got a baby, but yeah, I never felt more beautiful than I have last 2 years. And maybe you think I'm hit the wall. I don't know. But I think I overestimated a lot of the potential damage that I thought that having a child would do, and I didn't know about all the benefits I was going to get, because obviously it varies between
universal, yeah. So,
yeah.
But
you don't know. That's what I'm saying, is that any big life decision, you are probably more aware of the downsides than you are of the upsides. I mean, there are things that things like marriage, where people the celebration of the marriage at the start of it, the wedding, is such a universally positive event that most people see it as a very positive thing. That maybe that's why we do it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm saying it's less. Go back to Dark Souls. I think, having kids is less about. It's about moving past the idea of. I mean, you don't have to have kids to do this, but the idea of just like freedom and happiness is something to pursue.
Yeah.
Yeah, like having kids is like meaningful. Yeah, I don't want to just crib Jordan Peterson, but I'd say like
it's hard to explain what that really means, but you're right. Where taking on responsibility has its own. It makes you a better person, and virtue is the highest form of happiness.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of empty. Going out, seeing places. It's kind of like it's even if it's fun, and you're free to do things, you're still like there's not much there after that. Yeah, it's a very skin deep.
It's just that it's an experience that it's a pleasure that you're experiencing, that you could look back on fondly, but it's just an experience that is happening to you and not something that you achieved. I think.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, to some extent you feel like you're building something, or you're part of something big, or at least like that. Just keep reusing them like meaningful. I think that's the best term that I can think of. Is that it's even if it was much worse, it would still have meaning to it, and even if even if we could have much more fun without kids, and you had much more money, it still wouldn't have the same meaning.
Yeah, I think
like even if you could be a millionaire, everyone was automatically a millionaire until they had kids and then they were destitute. I still think you'd have a more fulfilling life without kids.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying about the money. It's like, what are you spending the money on? That's like, what, a car? Like that just sounds so stupid to me. Like, you went on holiday. That's great. No need to have a kid. You've gone on holiday and you have a car. You've got a really great gaming rig. Oh my god, your keyboard changes color.
That's pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's like those things are. I'm not saying those things are lame. I like going on holiday. I think, well, some cars are just status symbols. They're just stupid. But having a nice car isn't nothing. That's it's comfortable.
I just think it's a category area. You can't compare children to almost anything else.
Yeah, I think that's right. And
I mean, I guess the quote is it is kind of appropriate that people talk about like the fur babies and stuff like that, because I think having pets is like masturbation to sex.
Yeah.
To baby, it's like masturbation is like
it scratches the itch.
Yeah, it's like we all have that instinct to care for this thing and look after it and like watch it do things, and like, oh, it's cute. It's kind of like having a pet is like a perpetual baby as well. It never
grows up.
develops into something. So you're always at a nice cute stage. It's sort of like all the best bits of having a baby.
That's why
kid,
it's sold. Yeah.
And in a way, it is.
I think for people who don't understand what having kids is about, it's the best bits. And I'm not disparaging pets. I love pets. We would have a cat or a dog if we could, but we're living in a 1-bedroom place.
Well, I think you probably could get away with it.
We could get away with it, but we're gonna get a pet as soon as we can. As soon as we have a garden, I think we'll be having at least a cat, and maybe more.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 cats.
You're probably an old cat lady.
You're the one who likes cats. I'd get a dog. You love cats.
White women and dogs.
You just know. Anyway, pets are great, and I think the combination of pets and children is wonderful. When your children can take care of the pets and they can.
I mean, that's what pets are for. Yeah, I wouldn't say well. That's a good primary use of pets. Is watching your child look after this thing. Like it's a pseudo parent now.
Yeah.
You can watch. Yeah, you can sort of like learn to look after something.
Yeah.
To some extent.
And then when the pet dies, they understand death.
Yeah.
I know now why you cry. I think I did want to talk about the difficulties of having children though, because I don't want to pretend that it, like I said before, it's I don't want to pretend that it's easy or that it's.
No, I mean I'd say like if it was, it's like Dark Souls. If it was easy,
why would you do it?
There wouldn't be that much meaning to it.
Yeah.
If you could just have the baby and it like got up on its own and fed itself every day.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, like,
I think it's like playing.
It got up, it had food, it like did everything on its own. It was just in the room and like it occasionally played around and stuff like that. You know, like a pet, but it was sort of like more. It dressed itself, it entertained itself for the whole day, and then it went to bed on its own.
Well, that's what you get with a teenager, kind of.
Well, but they're more disruptive than that probably.
Yeah.
But you like would it really be? Would it really hold?
Yeah, well, it's something like
much sort of like meaning to it.
It's kind of like painting a beautiful masterpiece, in a way, but anyone can do it. It's not the fact that you've got a talent or that any divine inspiration. It's just the fact that you're putting in the hours, and those hours pay off. The effort that you put in, it always pays off. It's not like there's nothing like it because it's a what do you call it? It's a graft. It's something you're working at. But if you put enough attention and care into how you're doing it, you really can't do it wrong. Because babies, all they need is your attention and your patience. Some food. Yeah, the food and that's all just self-explanatory.
The other thing that people always say about I couldn't change the nappies as well.
Yeah. Oh, I don't want to change the nappies. That's the least of it, really. I was trying to explain this to Lander when he came round and met our daughter by green screen, of course.
Yeah.
He's not in our house, but the nappies, they the first 6 months they don't smell bad. When they're just drinking milk, the nappies don't smell almost at all. You can't even smell them. It's only when they start eating solid food it really stinks.
No, it's once they develop the E. coli in their tummy.
Okay.
That's where they start smelling.
Anyway,
Which is usually around that time. But...
Even when they smell bad, it's not great, and usually you can do it without making a mess. Sometimes you make a mess, but that's all just nothing. Because what is difficult about having kids is not about cleaning up after them. Anything you can do unimpaired is easy. That's what I realised, and I was listening to some econ talk. Aristotle said that happiness is the activity unimpaired. And I understood that because when my activity is impaired, I find it incredibly vexing. So if I can change a nappy, get rid of it, dispose of it, get it all done, put a new nappy on, unimpaired, I'm happy. I'm doing something, it's, maybe I'd rather be doing something else. But honestly, I'm caring for my kid. It's all fine. The impairment is the pain. When she's when she's kicking me, when she's wriggling, you know, and it's not just the nappies. When she does that when I'm feeding her, when she does that when we're going for a walk, anytime when she's impeding me, is pain. It doesn't matter if it's disgusting like nappies, or if it's something fun like playing, or if it's something fun like feeding her food, which is somewhere between, or even when she's going to bed. I don't mind paying attention to her. I don't care if I could be playing Dark Souls, doing something fun. I don't mind giving up those stuff, but when she gets in the way of me trying to take care of her, it's pain. And it's difficult, and it's not fun, and it's tedious. Is that what you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that, like, nappies are hyped.
Well, you don't even do the nappies.
I've done them occasionally. Did one today.
You did very well. You're not the primary nappy changer.
No, I mean, I put it to bed, which takes a lot longer.
Yeah. You're right about that. I mean, is that how you feel about putting her to bed, though?
It depends. I mean, the worst thing about putting to bed is not knowing if she's going to go to bed. Although, to be fair, like, I mean, it seems to happen like roughly every 3 months. She goes through a period of not going to bed properly, but most of the time, like ever since she was born, she's been pretty good at sleeping through the night.
But is it how do you feel about that? Is it do you get annoyed at her, or are you just frustrated with the situation?
I'm not at her, yeah. I don't know how willful she's being.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't matter.
A lot of it is her being willful.
You could be humans can be annoyed at anything. They can be annoyed at their car. They can be annoyed at their computer. Yeah. They can be annoyed at the serpent on Dark Souls who's trying to kill them.
Yes.
It's the fact that it's being intentional. It's almost a distraction because that's not what's annoying.
But I think usually you end up thinking it's intentional even when it's
when it's not. Yeah.
It's hard not to think it's intentional.
Yeah.
I think that
There's a weird part of your brain that thinks it's intentional even though you know it's not.
Yeah, like cars, video games, inanimate objects. People get annoyed at those.
Yeah.
And just hit them.
Yeah.
Humans, I don't know. That's like they like assume it's intentional and
it's the agency detection.
Yeah,
that's what
we always assume that someone's intentionally trying to hurt you because they're not. Yeah, there's not much downside. Mean that.
I was talking about imparting agency on things that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, but this you're talking about like malevolence, assuming malevolence, not just agency.
Yeah, well, that's what. If something's irritating you and they're doing it with agency, then that's malevolent.
I guess so. They can't be unintentionally. They could have agency and just be doing something random.
No, because that's what agency means. If it's happening to you, that's
okay.
what you're assuming agency. Like they're actively irritating you. Like, that's where you assume agency.
Well, I guess you're right.
The tiger's hunting you.
What really annoys me, and every time it happens, I think about cutting my hair because when she doesn't do it intentionally anymore, but our daughter often pulls my hair, and there's something about having like a sharp pain unexpectedly. It's just like ow, like a really painful experience that happens extremely quickly and thoughtlessly. She'll I'll be in my bed and she'll step on the pillow and it pulls my hair, and it's just very, very annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I do that.
You do that too, but at least when I say ow, you stop doing it. But she doesn't even understand that what she's doing has any relation to the pain that she's causing. I don't think she even knows that ow means pain because she finds it funny when I yell in pain.
Yeah, I mean,
she doesn't understand what she's doing. She doesn't understand that we can feel pain, I think.
Well, I think kids do have trouble telling the difference between when you're play acting and when you're actually annoyed or.
Yeah.
They're not super sophisticated creatures.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, the fact that she has agency, that she could be avoiding causing me pain, but she's not doing it. I'm annoyed at her anyway, even though I know she's not trying to hurt me. Yeah, it'd be obviously better if she was trying to hurt me, because then she could stop. I could punish her for trying to hurt me, but I can't even do that because she doesn't know what she's done wrong. So even if I did punish her, she wouldn't understand.
That's the worst thing.
That's the worst thing.
Okay.
What do you think is the worst thing?
No.
I mean, I'm asking. Do you agree? Or is there a worse thing?
She doesn't pull my hair, so I had to...
Yeah. Well, I think I'm autistic, so it's the noise as well. That happened today. The sound of her crying is very annoying, and it feels like she's doing it on purpose a lot of the time, because she can stop herself from crying. And there's people who don't have kids that aren't going to understand this, but there are cries that are different. There's cries that she can't help doing because she's so upset, and then there's the whining where she's crying but she's doing it on purpose.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Today she was definitely very tired.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the worst things is like not knowing if she's... she doesn't... quite possibly she doesn't even know what's wrong.
Yeah.
Like if she's in pain, she might not even know that herself. But she's capable of experiencing and being upset, like all that stuff. Just whatever it's causing her being upset, whether she's doing it somewhat deliberately or whether it's being caused by like she's teething or she's got a cut on her arm or she's pooed her pants or the nappy's digging into her bum. You don't know. If there's something you can do to stop her crying, or if she's, you should be doing something else, or what the thing you need to do is. I mean, she's starting getting pretty close now to being able to articulate what is upsetting her. She's not quite there, but she can say like drink and no and all done and stuff like that. So she's like,
if she's thirsty, she'll say drink, which is great because you can roll that out and say like, you can offer her something, she can say yes or no if she understands the question. So there's a little bit of a troubleshooting you can do there. But if you say something like, is there a stone in your shoe? Is it, are you, I don't think she understands, if I asked her if she was tired, I don't think she'd be able to understand that.
No, I don't think she's often very tired and won't go to sleep.
Yeah. Being tired is just a multiplication factor it's a multiplier for her dissatisfaction with any other thing.
Yeah.
So that can be annoying where she's crying because she wants to watch Peppa Pig, but otherwise if she wasn't so tired that wouldn't be the kind of thing that would make her cry. So that's the problem with the napping thing as well, because your day has to be planned around the possibility that she might need a nap at some point. And having a schedule helps with that, but if she's tired even a bit, it just ruins any experience that you're having, or can ruin. Whatever you're doing, it'll be made much worse by the fact that she's tired. So if you're out of the house at that point, or if you've got friends around or anything,
you don't know. Well, again, it's just you don't know what's wrong with them. Or like you can make educated guesses, but sometimes these things do. The thing that you think is wrong and the antidote you're trying to apply is not the right one, but you don't know what it is. I mean, I think all this stuff is this is only from parents that have got a child that is under 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. Even so far, she's gone through like 4 or 5 distinct stages of a different suite of problems that she has.
I guess what we're talking about now is going to be very much dependent on this, the stage that she's at right now.
Yeah, I guess the stages start lengthening out, but like she's gone through the newborn stage where she was kind of sleeping most of the time, but like she was completely immobile, which was mostly good.
Immobile, yeah.
She's completely immobile. She's completely reliant on you, but she was sleeping, so even though she was completely reliant...
And she was very light.
Yeah.
So we could put her in the sling, the sort of a wrap that went around my body, and you could always forget she was there. I could do chores, I could go shopping, and she would just sleep.
It's just a big bundle of baby that you can.
And she was sweet as well. She was really sweet. She was sleeping all the time. People would go, "Oh, baby."
Yeah.
How was your baby?
And then she went through a stage where she was not mobile yet, but actively wriggling and actively sort of rolling and actively sort of getting upset and not sleeping as much. Mm-hmm. Then she went through a stage of
crawling.
No, of like wanting to. Well, I guess crawling / wanting to walk. The crawling was quite short.
Yeah.
Like some people's crawling lasts like a year up to They don't start walking till they're 18 months. But she crawled for a little while, but
She learned to cruise quickly. That was the thing.
But she was very she got very grumpy around that time.
Well, that was at the start of lockdown where she wasn't getting out at all.
Yeah, I don't know how much of that was, and just how much of it was her, because she was desperate to stand up. But like anything that she could find, she'd like try and climb it, but you'd have to be watching her because she'd fall over, and she wouldn't like break a fall. She was incapable of breaking a fall. She would completely like plank backwards and hit her head. Like she wouldn't do. Like these days, she does the whole like this. When she falls down, she does.
She breaks her fall quite well.
Yeah.
She learned to fall well.
There's a whole stage where I gave her an ottoman and like rest her on top of it, and she would happily sit there, but eventually she would lose. Yeah, she would just fall backwards and hit her head. But so there was just surrounded by cushions around her, so you'd sit her up on there for 10 minutes, and she would sort of.
You put a toy on top.
Yeah, and then eventually she would completely fall backwards.
Yeah.
And then you prop her back up.
Yeah, we didn't have quite enough pillows, so there was like a dead zone where there was some places had pillows.
Yeah, most of the time she was fine.
If she fell between two pillows, she could hit her head. But she had absolutely no control over it, and she wouldn't understand, even if she did, how to like. And
now, I guess ever since then, she's been. It's probably one of the longest stages. She like learned to walk at sort of like, what was it, like 10, 11 months.
And it feels like we live with a psychopath now. And I don't mean that in the harshest way, but now that she's mobile, she's talking, she'll like walk out of the room. She's got her own like plan. Like she'll just go upstairs sometimes. It feels like we live with someone, but that person doesn't care about us.
That's when they start walking. It feels immediately like you have like it's a person as opposed to a baby.
Yeah.
A baby really does feel like a pet or a. It's not too.
Like having a Tamagotchi.
Yeah, it's just like this. This lump of thing that cries and does stuff. But like, I remember when she came back once and she ran into the room, and at that point it really felt like it was a person.
Yeah.
She didn't run. She like wobbled. She was still fit, but it was like she wanted to go somewhere and she wobbled in towards that area and like it was like, hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one carried her in and had to put her down. She was like, door was open. She ran in. Yeah, that's what adults do.
Yeah.
And she felt like a person at that point.
Yeah.
Before then, it was she didn't feel like a real person.
Yeah, well, even before that, for me, when she was just able to have any kind of agency, when she was just lying down, even when she was waving her arms and making noises, she couldn't show her will. All she could do was cry or to not cry. But when she could cruise and crawl, it was like she could see something and want to get it. And we take that for granted now because she does it all the time. But at the time when she'd been looking at stuff and we didn't know, what does she want to do with it? Does she like that? Is she afraid of it? And now it was like she had a personality where it was like, she would pick things up, she would hit something, whatever. It was like she was enacting her will on the world and she could change things in it. And that's what it means to have agency. And I mean, it's just crazy thinking about that from, you have sex one day and then a baby comes out 9 months later and then like 9 months after that, they're like a real person.
Yeah. It's
just insane. I mean, it happens every day. They say a sucker's born every minute. But it is kind of magical. I don't mean that in a universally positive way. I just mean the fact that
black magic.
There's just she does it all herself. From the pregnancy all the way up to now, for the rest of her life, we're not like planning. There's no one like putting each cell in place, making her hair grow, making her brain grow. It's just, I mean, I want to say it's all her, not she's doing it by choice, but it just happens. She just grows from nothing to a person.
Well, I mean, we haven't really talked about enough is shitting on cool wine aunts.
You want to shit on cool wine aunts?
Yeah, you've got that in the I don't know one's noticed the background.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, that's the most fun part of.
So you're talking about the you want to talk about the actual cool wine aunts or the would be, yeah.
Anything, the child-free people. Yeah, it's just.
Well, they just don't get it, do they?
Yeah,
They missed the point.
Talk about John Peterson again. I always think about the thing where he says like, yeah, you're going to be alive for like 80, 90 years or whatever. Be lucky. Yeah, sure you can like run around and do all this cool stuff when you like till you're 40 or 50, but then what are you going to do the rest of your life?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's.
Oh yeah, I did.
Kind of look at it just feels like you're gonna have a very empty back end of your life without any children.
I think that's right, and I did want to read some tweets because there was one in particular that I think I might have closed it now. How annoying. Basically, yes, I expect so. Yeah, I think it would take too long to find it, but yeah. I remember the gist of it because the whole reason we're having this discussion today is because the word "pregnant" was trending on Twitter.
Yeah. For
a completely unrelated reason. I think it was because Meghan Markle is pregnant and she was holding a toddler.
Pregnant?
Am I pregnant? I think she's pregnant, and because she was holding her toddler. Apparently, you're not allowed to do that.
But you're pregnant?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the toddler is too heavy. It's like basically like heavy lifting, basically.
Toddler, like Beatrice tries to kill any potential baby.
Maybe, I don't know. But apparently, there are some people who say that's not allowed, and then a lot of people on Twitter were mad, going like, "She can do whatever she wants." Anyway, that's why "pregnant" as a word was trending on Twitter. Okay. But the first thread that I came upon, which I ended up tweeting out because there was a young lady in the thread who did the cool wine aunt meme. But apparently, unironically, not even knowing that it was a meme, she was just saying that she'd love to be the kind of single lady who travels around, makes a lot of money, and can buy extravagant gifts for her friends' children, for her nieces and nephews. She didn't say that, presumably because she hasn't got any siblings. But I was saying to you that I think there are young women who aspire to be that because they don't want to have children, A, and B, because they had a figure like that in their own lives who was a cool older person who would give them extravagant gifts because they were rich and they didn't have their own children. So they would spoil other people's children, basically. And the people who had that kind of figure in their life would naturally be very impressed with that and think that was cool. But there were also a lot of women in that thread talking about how they were usually like late 20s ladies talking about how their mothers, that people in their lives were often like asking like, when are you going to settle down? When are you going to have kids? And these women were expressing their frustration that people didn't respect their choice to not have children, or that they were, that they hadn't even decided whether they were going to have children yet, and that there was way too much pressure on them. This comes back to another video I've made about female fertility, where it seems that women genuinely don't understand that there's very tight time limit. Once you get to late 20s, if you haven't settled down yet, you should probably think about it.
Yeah, I think going back to that, like, the fire is hot video.
I'm going to get a drink. Go on. Do you want to explain the fire is hot?
Well, let's just watch the video. But someone can say that something is hard or hot or whatever, and you can understand that it is. You can agree that they're right. You can say like, I know that this is hot, but you're talking like
past each other.
Yeah. It's even though like it sounds like you understand each other, you're just talking past each other. So I think most women, they don't literally not understand that time is limited. If you say like, your time is limited, they might like have some cope
They'll go like, yeah, by the time,
deflections.
yeah,
Or
they
whatever.
wanna,
They do know that their time is limited. They do know that they're going to be alive a lot longer, or for quite a long time, and not be able to have kids during that time. And they do know that they're getting, there won't be a big fat line in the sand. But I don't think they know, like, it's like it's how exponential it is, and it's not just fertility. It's like how men value women.
that's exactly the point I wanted to come on to, because there were some very depressing tweets in that thread. Women who were, and you discussed this when it wasn't on stream, we were just talking to Lambda after the stream, talking about the tragedy of women who overvalue themselves because they are very attractive in their youth, and because they're seeking a certain kind of male attention, they then overvalue themselves in regard to marriage prospects. So they think that they can wait longer, they think they're going to be able to wait for Mr. Right to come along. That is a man who is very wealthy and very attractive and very charismatic.
They may have been in relationships with multiple Mr. Rights, and because they've had so many relationships, they're willing to go, oh well, I can just have another one. Any of those relationships I could have turned into a marriage, but I didn't want to, and I can just keep having those.
Yeah.
For in perpetuity. There's nothing changing about me. I'm getting better as a person or whatever. So I can just have another one, and I can, whichever one I want. At some point, I will choose. I'll stop and choose that one, and that'll be it. And I'll have kids then. But I mean, it could be realistic for some of them, but it probably isn't good on average as a strategy for women.
Yeah, I think the problem with rating yourself is that it's hard to imagine. You compare yourself to the people who you're around or whatever. But I think what women don't understand is that they're not just competing with. I think they devalue the competitive aspect at all. So they think they can just wait around for the perfect guy. By the way, it probably doesn't exist, but even if he did, okay, you're attractive. You're intelligent. You're funny. You've got a good job as a young lady. That guy who can choose from pretty much any woman. Who's to say he's not going to choose the version of you from 5 years ago, who's got 5 years extra childbearing time, who's maybe a little bit more physically attractive. The 22-year-old version of you compared to the 27-year-old version of you. Unless you're extremely special and extremely attractive, there's probably a 22-year-old version of you that is kicking around who is slightly more attractive to this guy than you are at 27.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes down to, believe it or not, that, men don't find, business, being successful in a career as an attractive factor in a woman.
Good point. Yeah.
It might be inverse first. So like a woman that can't. A man can attract more women by being successful in his career, but a woman can't do that. No. There's. The men and women are different. What they find attractive is different, and when women opt for a career, they're not making themselves more attractive.
Yeah, they're probably raising their own opinion of themselves, which I think there's nothing wrong with that. But there is an element of just facing the reality that it's not making you more attractive. It's probably not making you less attractive either, but the fact that time is passing is making you less attractive.
Yeah, and men do get more attractive. So even just though, forget about any other factor. The fact that men, as they get older, become more attractive due to the fact that they're generally earning more as they get older, makes them more attractive. So men can wait and just they can just watch. Was it Living on the Interest?
Yeah, I mean, I would even suggest that men do that.
Yeah.
If I was giving advice to young single men, I'd go just enjoy it and try and pick up a 22-year-old.
I don't know if the instinct to wait is stronger in men compared to women, because I mean there is, yeah, in modern society everyone's waiting longer. I don't know whether men naturally, whether men want to wait longer, all things being equal.
You think instinctively there might be on some kind of instinctive level an understanding of their own worth?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, women are waiting long. Yeah, ridiculously long. In sort of like biological terms. So I don't know how strong that instinct is comparatively. But either way, yeah. On just that one factor, that two-dimensional factor, you go like, what? Yeah, Group A, Group B. Group A becomes more attractive the longer they wait. Group B stays exactly the same. So like, this Group A is always gonna want, is gonna wait as long as possible, and Group B should I mean, in this scenario, there's no benefit to doing it earlier, but still, it makes sense to do it earlier because that makes sense.
Yes. I was just going to bring up the fact I've been reading Jane Austen.
Yeah.
I read Pride and Prejudice, and then I enjoyed that so much, and I read Sense and Sensibility after that. And in one of those books, it's mentioned that a woman at 27 is pretty much a spinster, where she'll probably not meet any bachelors after that.
Yeah.
She's not going to get any marriage proposals.
Oh, she might get one from an elderly gentleman or something.
Yeah, or a divorced guy.
Yeah.
A widower, a farmer. Someone who's not a gentleman.
She's not hopeless, but yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's the understanding, and that's the setup for the book Persuasion, which is the one I'm reading now. It's about a 29-year-old, I think.
Yeah.
She's described to be. It's quite funny the way it's phrased. It says that it does not often happen that a woman is more attractive at 29 than she was at 19, but in this case it was. She was. I don't know if that's commenting on the fact that she was quite dumpy or,
I don't know. Was Jane Austen 29 at this point?
Possibly.
I'm going to teach them.
I mean, I'm 27 now.
Yeah.
I think I'm more attractive than I was at 17. We met when I was 17, so you can say.
I don't know, like it's all just merged together. I personally don't think that people change that much, like personality-wise.
Oh yeah, I meant physically attractive. I think the wall is a good meme because a beautiful woman, 17 compared to 27 is not that big a difference. But when it's like there is a sense, it's not the same age for every woman, but it seems like there is an age where suddenly she gets old. Like she may not look ugly, but she starts to look old. And maybe it's because I'm 27, but I don't think 27-year-olds look old yet.
I mean, sometimes puberty can cause puberty is a bit of a crapshoot.
Are you talking about Chloe Grace Moretz? Yeah.
I don't know if she's a hideous or anything, but you often see like, who's that weird, the kid from Sixth
Someone
Sense?
says woo lad, it's just woo lad. He's calling you a paedophile.
About the Sixth Sense kid, Joey Oldhale Oswald. He's got like I mean, I didn't find him sexually attractive in Sixth Sense, but like he was a cute kid, child actor.
Yeah.
But as an adult, he has exactly the same face he had when he was 9 years old, and it's the same size.
Yeah.
He's got this really,
Yeah.
That's what I mean by puberty is sort of a crapshoot. Some kids come out of it as,
Well, that is what happens. I think on a scientific level, what's happening is that children have very neutral faces. They haven't been touched by testosterone. Basically, they're like a blank sheet. So a female child's face and a male child's face, they look quite similar. They're not sexually dimorphic. Children look pretty much the same. They've just got different genitals, and and when they hit puberty, they're exposed to different hormones, which make them look different. But it also, just like you say, they the hormones can make you look kind of weird, and that's what to an extent happened to me. Not that I think I'm ugly, but if you look at pictures of me when I was 12, I didn't have a jawline like this. You know, most kids don't, and I got my face got a lot more masculinized since then, and I think that's what you mean by. I mean, that's kind of what seems to have happened to Chloe Grace Moretz as well.
Yeah, she's yeah, it is. But I mean, it's just a generalized thing of I can't remember how we even got to this.
The wall. We're talking about the wall.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a meme, isn't it? There's certainly definitely a truth to it.
I think there when
I think it's probably mixed in with people tend to gain weight as they get older as well.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
And
it doesn't help.
Women probably age slightly worse than men. As far as what you're looking like, men look attractive when they're craggy. In fact, as they age, they kind of look more masculine.
If they don't get fat.
Yeah.
But men often do get fat around their 30s and 40s.
The default for women is to, it's moving away from their de facto beauty standard as they age.
Yeah.
Yeah, the aging process doesn't look as good on women. So there might be like a factor of like some women get older and maybe they start changing how they do makeup. Maybe they become aware that they're getting older, so they start wearing like they overcompensate. I don't know, that's part of maybe makeup is part of it. Yeah, they're trying to.
Well, that's
by trying to hide it. They start to look like older women. Because older women have react. Obviously, they're trying to hide this thing so that like they have to wear more makeup or they wear it in this particular way. Maybe I don't know. But there seems to be some kind of truth to it. That it's sort of like ooh.
That hit her fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to say about coming back to the much younger women. If you look at 15, 16, 17-year-olds, I don't know whether it's something physical that's happening or whether it's just that women learn to dress themselves better. They learn to tailor their makeup and their hair specifically to them and just carry themselves a bit better. But what you often see is that actually that teenagers don't look that great. Even though, fertility-wise, they're the very youngest that an adult can be. They often have like an awkwardness to them. Maybe it is just the sweatiness and the acne that comes with being a teenager.
It's hard to know whether if they had like a makeover, they would look premium.
Well, actresses that's often the age before they've had their surgery done as well. So when you see actresses before they were in films, they often look much worse. When they have before they had professional hair and makeup as well. I feel like we've been talking for a long time.
Yeah. I was hoping to read.
The why not thing?
Yeah, I mean it's just the whole. I don't know. You can really articulate it, but it just seems. They don't get it, and I mean it's kind of like they know that there's people out there telling them that they don't get it.
Yeah.
So like, they're aware of these people telling them this. I don't know if they could be. If it's an argument you can win intellectually.
Maybe they just haven't seen the graph. Like they've got these people. They've got these people saying like, oh, when you get to 40 or whatever, it's like.
I'm talking about the people that say like they're not like want someday. Some people, the people that literally say like, I'll never want. I don't.
Oh, okay, right, okay, yeah. So they go like, so they've got people saying like, oh, but you might want one someday, or like, oh, you say that now, but just wait.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say about it really. It's just I mean, I know how unconvincing it sounds, but when you hear them say it, it sounds like somebody that doesn't know what they don't know what they're talking about. Their arguments seem very shallow.
Well,
why
when
they don't
they,
want.
yeah, well,
I've never heard like a really like. Their arguments are an argument of children not wanting children. Yeah, I don't want children because I don't want the responsibility, and I don't want to not have to. Yeah, I want to be able to go out when I want to go out, and I want to have my own money for myself. Like their arguments come across as childish.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like they're not statements of a fully grown person. They're a person that's like, I want to do what I want to do, mummy.
I think the reason it sounds childish is because it's things that we've all thought when we were children. I don't know if you ever went through a phase of not wanting to have kids.
I don't think I ever like had a firm like stand against kids. I definitely like didn't like the idea of nappies, and I didn't like
Who does?
yeah, and but I don't remember anything else particularly like really going like making me not like children. To like, I don't think I ever like really like I really want to be a dad, or I really want to look after babies or anything like that.
It's quite a weird thing to think of a teenage boy aspiring to.
Yeah, I wonder if women like think about it more.
Well, women play, like, little girls play with dolls and take care of them. It's like, it's there right from the beginning. You've got those little girls playing with a baby. It's a doll that looks like a baby, and the more that it acts like a real baby, the more they like it.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if girls like actively think about the subject. But for me, I think it was always just something that it was like all adult things. It was just something that
other people do.
Well, it was something that I'd have to go through. Like I'd have to be an adult. I'd have to, there's like 16 things that you have to get through before you can even start thinking about. I have to leave school. I have to get thing. I have to get a job. Like all those things seemed like so distant and so a million years away. That like theoretically maybe like who cares? I've got to get through all this other stuff. So I think that was the only thought I had about kids. But I do wonder if girls think about the concept of that a lot more. They think about whether they do want to have kids and like when they want to have a husband.
Well, there is a certain kind of clingy girlfriend that teenagers often, it's more of a teenage phenomenon, I think, where once they find a boy they like and they go out with him, it's they'll amuse themselves by thinking about their future and thinking of names for their children. Even though those things are extremely far off, there is, I think it is present in the minds of many young girls, some more than others, thinking about this guy, could he be the one? Is this going to be the father of my children, and what's that going to be like? Obviously, to some extent, that's something that women grow out of, and then modern women, they'll often grow out of that and then settle back into it when they're ready to settle down. Obviously, I think some women just keep that instinct. But...
Yeah, I do wonder is because women have or tend to think of it when they're young. They come up with a stand from that angle.
What do you mean?
Yeah, assuming my experience is universal for men, that they just don't think it's like going to Mars or whatever. Like okay, maybe one day or whatever. But let's think about something else. If women are thinking about it, from like 10 years old onwards, they're thinking, will I have kids? When will I have kids? What is it like having a kid? Like, do I like the idea of having kids? They're mentally playing through all the different scenarios involving children, like 1 children, 10 children, adopting children, having 1 child, like all that stuff. If girls do come up with, they lock off on like, okay, I don't like kids, I'm never going to have kids, and then that's they form that idea when they're 10, and that idea is settled in their brain when they're 10, and then that's what these child I'm not saying this is true, but I'm saying like that is my null hypothesis or whatever. Like that could be what's happening with these child-free women, because I think men probably aren't so philosophically non-committal to I think most of these people that
Well,
are
for men,
child-free.
your life isn't, for men, your life isn't really defined on a surface level. Your life isn't defined by whether you have kids or not.
Yeah. Well,
You can
also,
have the same job either way.
also, men, it's always like you don't have to make it a thing because if you're alive, you can have kids.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay, I'm child-free. I believe 100% in them having children. Oh, yeah, 20 years time, they have 6 kids.
Yeah,
and then 20 years after that, they have 6 kids. Yeah, like for men, it's like there is no point in having a very strong take on having kids or not. Yeah, it's kind of pointless, but like women maybe do.
Do you remember when you were dating? And I think you were. I looked at your online dating profile, and it said that you were like interested. You were open to the idea of having children, but not set on it. I don't know if that was you gaming the system to try and play both sides.
I
Or...
really don't remember.
So do you don't remember at that time either
It's probably more that. Like I think that's what the men that are child free are just going along.
Okay.
I think
Like male vegans.
Yeah, to some extent, I think they're. I just don't think that men, like I said before, that they don't need to have that strong opinion about it. Like if the woman they're with currently has a strong opinion with it, sure, I mean, it's, for men, they can wait. They can afford to be child free, and they can push that stuff back.
So then, for men, it's the decision to have children that is a permanent one.
Yeah.
For women, if they wait too long, that's a permanent decision they've made without even knowing it. But for men, I mean, I think it's a crazy thing, the idea of that that you come to such an important decision through these very vague ways of just going like, oh, maybe, and then you meet someone and they go, I want kids, and you go, okay, yeah, let's try it. That's just like the next 20 years of my life. And that is just how it happens. And before we had birth control, it was even more arbitrary than that, where you just go like, I would like to have sex with you, and whether you got married or not at first, you'd be married afterwards. And yeah, that's it. I mean, you wanted to have sex, and too bad she got pregnant. I mean, that was like a 50-50 crapshoot. And now you've got that for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Is that a good place to stop?
Yeah. Any closing statements?
Well, that is the basis of what we're saying. Is this thing about child birth control is that is the factor that is determining everything we've just said, because the fact that you choose to have children is a modern invention, whereas before, if you're an adult, you probably want to have sex. There's probably one specific person you'd like to have sex with, so you better marry them, and that's the.
And everything else follows.
Yeah, it's like it's not a choice. It's just like that's what you're gonna do, unless you're gonna join the monastery or you're gonna become a nun. That's the choice you make. Is like, I'm gonna enter the church.
Yeah,
wow, big choice. Like seriously, you take your vows. Otherwise, you're probably gonna have kids.
Going back on what I said like ages ago, having kids was just an inevitable part of life, like death and becoming an adult. There used to be inevitable stages of your life. You'd be a baby, you'd be a toddler, you'd be a child, you'd become you just become an adult, go child, adult, and then you'd get married / have kids, and then you'd become a grandparent and die. That's like, there's nothing you could,
This is your path.
It was very hard to avoid. The only thing that was even mildly avoidable, apart from killing yourself, was the marriage thing by going to the monastery, like you say. But all the other stuff was, very few people took that route.
Yeah.
And their offspring didn't survive, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what strikes me. Is like, from an evolutionary perspective, all these people from an uninterrupted line of people that have had children.
Yeah, obviously.
So
I mean, I say obviously, but it's useful to remember that sometimes.
It's I do wonder how much like social pressure or social influence women have about not having kids.
I think they've got a lot of influence on their partner, as we've on their husband often.
I mean, like how much society's like
paying attention.
Well, like the media portrayal of like, I don't know if having kids is shown in a negative light, but often not having, it's not shown that like not having kids is good, but like often the cool people out there don't have kids.
Yeah, but they don't have kids in their young. That's another point I wanted to bring up that I forgot about, because being childless in your 20s, the choice to be childless forever is kind of presupposing that it'll be the same when you're in your 20s as it will when you're in the 50s. Kind of what you were saying earlier, is that you're making the choice based on what your single childless life is like now, but that's not necessarily what it's going to be like when you're 50. You know, the childless life, it doesn't remain the same throughout your life.
Yeah, I mean, aesthetically, it's definitely unattractive for even like a 30-year-old to be having the lifestyle of a 20-year-old.
Depends if you're male or female.
Okay. I think male or female, it's a little bit. Yeah, was it saying True Detective? At a certain age, a man with no family and kids could be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of.
But I think for that age is not 30 for men.
No, but it
is for women. But for men, it's not 30.
I feel it's a little bit. I don't know. Men have got a bigger extension on it, but I still think it starts doing exactly. If you're doing exactly the same things in your 30s as you're doing in your 20s, it's not great. Like maybe you can do some of the same stuff, but you kind of like you're in a sort of Peter Pan kind of. You're lying to yourself. It's a bit like the old they say we're sisters or whatever for women. Yeah, like.
Oh, baby's crying. That's a good ending as anything. All right, thanks for joining us. We've got to go put the baby back to bed because she's upset. So thank you very much, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you very much for being on the show.
It's okay.
Subscribe to Twitch.